Yeah,
for
and don't make it
that.
and don't make it an either or. It's not like you have to
Yeah.
win the battle, like you
Yeah.
know, because they're so connected.
Hmm.
That's the part that people is like, you know.
Hey, Lauren, how are you?
Hey, good morning, Lynette, and I'm looking forward to another conversation with you and on Culture Cast. And today we're going to talk about people first and what the hell that really means, huh?
Exactly. Do you know how many times I've heard in the past 6 months from seriously high-ranking leaders where they're still thinking that customer first? And I always
Yeah.
get so sort of like, okay, it's not about not, really focusing on your customer, but who actually is the one that's taking care of your customer? Who's dealing with your customer? Who's really putting themselves out there for your customer? It's your people. And if those people aren't happy, then they're gonna not do what we want them to do. And it's gonna be evident on all the social media rankings out there, which I think you're gonna lead right into right now. So how might we help our listeners focus more on their people, focus more on in the internal brand, and then better reflect against the external brand? So
Yeah, and maybe just to frame it up, thanks. I was reading just on Glassdoor because I was struck by Salesforce.com's strategy around Glassdoor. Glassdoor, for our listeners that aren't familiar with it, is a social media platform where people go and anonymously rank organizations, and they rank the organization, and they post their experience, and they rank the CEO. But also, it's a platform for jobs and a whole bunch of other things. But it's important. It's important, and the Glassdoor score rating is important. And Salesforce, I was looking at some of the data they shared with me, and frankly, they found that their best people that they lost went to companies with a higher Glassdoor score.
yeah,
And they were
the
able to
inflow outflow, right?
exactly, and they were able to attract people from top-notch companies that had a lower Glassdoor score. So what they didn't want to oversimplify, but that was the data. And I was reading this, and this is an organization that was touting itself as a great organization. And I don't want to be critical; I just want to share the facts. So this is Booking.com.
So we're referring to, sorry, Lauren, what we're referring to a Glassdoor score for Booking.com.
For Booking.com, and their total
Okay.
Glassdoor score is 3.2, and 59% would recommend to a friend. I think barely, a little over half would recommend your friend working here. Now, think about that. I mean, they've got 759 reviews, so they're not like they don't have any data out there.
Right.
And their CEO rating is 70, approval rating is 70%. Dave Mullet's rating when we were at ATB was 99%, right? I mean, there's something that's, but anyway, I was curious about a current employee, pros for working at Booking.com. Fruit is free. They pay 50% of healthy meals and 20% of everything else. Free Starbucks coffee, and they get to wear casual stuff every day, and you get randomly ordered pizza.
Oh, wow. All the reasons why I want to work for an organization.
And I think and I honestly think this is somebody, and I shouldn't be so, but sometimes HR goes and says to someone, go post something nice on Glassdoor. And yeah, you know what? And then you could get mystified or sort of seduced by some people like Google that give free food, and Microsoft that had that going right from the very outset. But that's not what really drives people at work.
No.
What really gets people up in the morning is when they have purpose, and when they give people that work with them and around them a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
They could. And yeah, the foosball table's nice, and every once in a while a free pizza is nice. But if the work's crappy and the experience is crappy, and you're giving your customers a lousy experience, and you're trying to always put up with a crappy process or system, I'll tell you, that pizza's going to look pretty stale.
How do you move, Lauren? So purpose, great. I've read a million magazine articles. I've read a million books. I've listened to a million blogs and podcasts. Purpose. So how do you create that as a leader? So, okay, you're right. I've got to have an environment or, a fun place to come to work. And maybe that includes some free food, some Starbucks coffee, and et cetera. But now I'm really sitting here thinking, okay, well, if people are really purpose driven, what do I do at work to create that for them or to help
Well,
have that?
I think there needs to be that kind of a compelling kind of narrative and a picture almost that people get. This is why we come to work every day. And it's typically not about some sort of transaction of a product. It's a deeper advancement for helping the people that the company is serving to really move forward. And and there's some articulation of something that goes, wow, that's really important. I'm really glad I'm part of that. And that's what drives me. The end with that is that my company creates conditions and puts in processes to make sure that when I give that service, Lynette, I feel good about it. I don't apologize for it all the time. I'm not telling people, I'm not feeling disingenuous about the service. I genuinely wake up and go, I know that the leaders here are creating conditions so that whatever I'm doing to give that customer a great experience is part of a higher order purpose, but it's also the act of doing it is a good experience. And that has nothing to do with foosball tables, the being able to bring your dog in and the pizza.
Yeah,
It's
those I think are just sort of gimmies now. It's like going out to buy a car. If I had to, ask for air conditioning in a car nowadays, that would almost seem like, well, isn't that sort of the base model? Isn't that sort of the foundation of which, you know? So for me, I feel like creating conditions, sure, it's great leadership and all that. I also believe that we have to better connect or close the gap, if you will, between how we live our lives personally and how we show up to work professionally. So I go home from work and I'm using all the social media
yeah,
apps, all the social apps, the technologies. I'm mobile. I can do everything simply through my phone. And yet I go to work and I'm working on this old, stale technology, but yet my leader's telling me to be innovative and we need to be, get going, we got to come up with some better ideas, but we don't have the tools necessarily to do that. So I think that one thing that leaders could do is start to look at closing the gap between what's happening in our personal lives and what's happening in our work lives. It should be one. And
I
that's,
completely agree.
yeah, I think people will show up with more purpose when they're enabled with the right technology and tools to do it. So I don't
Yeah,
know how many
and
times.
I want to go back to your question, your challenge you said around. Give me an example around purpose and people first
Yeah.
coming together. So at ATB Financial, that we talk about from time to time, very proud of the company. I love it, and so thrilled to now be an alumni of it. And part of their purpose statement is around making people's time richer, right?
Mhm.
Well, if you're a personal banker or you're a frontline banker and you're opening up a bank account, up until recently, it would take over an hour to open up a bank account. So how the hell does making the purpose of making people's time richer and an
Mhm.
hour experience watching the hour clock go on your computer while you're opening up a bank account for an hour? How does that go together? And
Yeah.
that's what drives people crazy. Like,
Yeah.
you could say to someone, now come to work and try and open up a bank account, and we're going to have people anxiously sitting squirming in their seats for an hour, but to make you feel better, we're going to order a pizza at 5 o'clock.
Mhm.
Instead of fixing that process and say, you know what, I can get you in out of here in a bank account in less than 5 minutes. How does that feel?
Mhm.
How does that make your time richer?
Yeah.
Or like you say, to the point where frankly, it's going to happen on here and you never even have to come into a branch. And that to me is the subtle but hugely different way of thinking people first and then customer obsessed. Because
Yeah.
you're right, right? But it's so easy. It's much easier to go and let's get Spotify on here full time, and it's okay to wear ripped jeans, and that becomes the answer. Because the hard work is people first. The hard work is
Yeah.
that.
I think you said something pretty interesting that we could build on, Lauren. I think that we're asking our employees to make the lives of our customers richer. It's sort of a bit of a value, right? So I think that one thing, as you had stated, the ATB, great company to work for. What they did is they came up with a really brilliant set of values that they asked team members to show up to work and be every day. And that was no different than what they wanted for their customers. So I think that that's one thing that leaders could probably do, is to make sure that there's a set of values that people within the organization can migrate to, and to just, I guess, understand better the behaviors that you are asking them to kind of work in, or to be like, which automatically sort of translate into the customer experience. And I think that, to me, that's probably where you would start. Like, a lot of people are looking to change their culture, and where do we go? How do we get more people focused? How do I, not even people focused, but maybe they're not even saying, how do I get more people focused? Maybe they're just saying, how do I create a better engagement strategy with my employees? And I think for me, the first thing you would want to do is, beyond sort of the purpose of the company, is what are the values of the organization? And are you really giving people a vivid picture of how you want that organization to be working, to be sort of operating?
Yeah, I think that's important. And for some of our listeners that may feel that may be too far removed from sort of immediate, more tangible action, at the end with that is that if you really want to make a difference around employing people, feeling people first, if you are taking any kind of an engagement survey, I would almost guarantee you, and I've seen this over and over again, that the number one engagement issue is around people's ability to get their work done. And if you attack those those problems around what's in the way of people getting their work done, really giving the customer a great experience, if you really commit to doing those, to really changing those, then I think your engagement and your people first strategy starts to flourish, while you're working on your purpose and your values and stuff to really kind of round it all out. Because at the end of the day, Lynette, just think about this. If our worst days, at least they are for me, is when I think I've done a shitty job for someone, or if something didn't go well. Those are my worst days, right? It's like that didn't, or but your best days are when someone feels like, wow, that was tremendous value. Like you get almost on a high. Now, someone says, it's not just for the recognition, but someone says, oh, that was just great. That was great. Thank you very much. And if your day's filled with, that was just great, thank you very much, those are pretty good days.
Yeah.
You don't worry so much about whether you're going to get a free Sprite. So anyway, I don't want to diminish some of those other things that people do to make it a great conditions for people. Of course, do those.
I think all we're saying here, Lorne, is really that maybe just, if you are thinking, I mean, you and I heard it, we were at a culture focus group one day, a few months ago, and we heard this senior leader say right in front of all these other leaders that he doesn't believe people first, he believes in putting the customer first. And I guess what we're trying to say is challenge that thinking. And maybe just if you are thinking that way, maybe for one day, just put your people first.
Yeah, and don't make it an either or. It's not like you have to win the battle, like because they're so connected. That's the part that people is like, you can have some things that happen on AI, artificial intelligence, some that happen that don't involve human beings. But some human being designed that experience. Yeah. Right. So don't have to force people to choose an or, but no, it starts with people first. It starts there, and then it ends up at the customer. If we do that, if our listeners take that away and give some real thought to that and contribute to that discussion, I think we'll move organizations. And I think it's been a worthwhile conversation on that.
Yeah, perfect. And so let's just sum it up, Lauren. What would be sort of the three things that we would say, or a couple of things that we would say for a leader who maybe had a bit of an aha moment today and just said, okay, you know what, people first. What would be
Yeah,
the three things that, how would I approach that
I
tomorrow?
I think go first of all, think about your organization and think about, you know, what the experience is for um, in your organization for people to deliver great experience to your customers, and think about those messy problems that have been around for a long time that people have just tried to put band-aids on. That's a good place to just sit back and start. Take
Mm-hmm.
a look at that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the second thing is that if you're a team member, then you have a right and responsibility to raise your hand and say, you know, if we did it this way, I would give my customers a better experience.
Yeah.
You know, force that conversation to happen, and because you have a right to do it. If you just keep being that good soldier that goes in there and keeps delivering the same crap over and over again and don't constructively complain about it, you're just colluding with the rest of the organization to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the third thing is don't get trapped to have to make a choice that it's either customers or people.
Yeah.
You know, get away from that nonsense, or even shareholders, throw that in there. You
Mm-hmm.
know, start with people, focus on your customers. I tell you what, your shareholders are going to end up damn happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Lauren, thanks for your time today. Nice chatting with you.
I'll send you a free pizza.
Okay, sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Thanks for that.
Later.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay, bye.